Hello and welcome to my first walk and talk style video. In these videos I will be looking at coaching concepts, ideas and general points that should, I hope, help coaches in their practice and their practical delivery. This first episode we're going to look at the STEP principle, which I think is a hugely undervalued and underused tool that can really have a good, strong, practical impact on people's delivery. It could be used as a planning tool before a session, considering the space, the task, the equipment and the people, but I believe it to be an even more powerful tool for adjusting sessions either during the session and on the fly, or when you have seen a session from somebody else that you really like and would like to adjust for your own players, or even one of your own practices that you've reviewed and reflected on and thought, this could be better, this could be different, I can use this for a different group, what can I change? And if you start with the STEP principle, you're going to get a good idea of the key features that you can change in a very simple way and have a very dynamic impact on your practice. So let's take the game itself of football. What happens if we change the space? So making a space smaller, making a space larger can have huge impacts on the practice and the outcomes and the actions of the players. A smaller pitch could be more intense, a larger pitch could be less intense, but then if we change other spaces such as end zones, we might end up with more forward running and a larger space. Well, if we change the task next, so obviously in football the task is to score and not let the other team score. But how do we do that? Can we reward? Can we give points for scoring in different ways? A classic being a one-touch finish, knowing that that will impact and influence what our players attempt to do. And hopefully, if the players have a good understanding of what you're trying to achieve and what they're trying to achieve, develop and practice the skill of finishing with one touch. Then if we change the equipment, we understand that there's not that much equipment that we can change, but what we do with it can have a huge influence on what happens, which is why for many years we saw campaigning that it was eventually successful to get changes made to youth football where they played on smaller pitches and with smaller goals to make their actual gameplay more realistic and more enjoyable. But if we take that to adults or people who are at a different context and learning stage, by using 2 goals, that might impact them. By using extra large goals, what impact does that have on them? But these are things that we can change and use as long as we have an understanding of exactly what they can do. And then finally, people. Now, that can be looked at in a few different ways. If we are playing 1 versus 1s, how does it change the impact on certain players if we change their matchup? Is it an easier task? Is it a more difficult task just by changing the matchup that they have? We can then think about, we've got a 5v5 game going on. One team is finding it far too easy. Move a player. We're changing the people. 6 versus 4. How does that change the challenge? What does that do to things? And then the concept of scaling applies to the numbers we use. If we play 3 versus 3, surprising I dropped that in there, but 3 versus 3, what does that do to the practice? What does that do to the players? Increasing the number of touches and so on. And then finally, there's the idea that we could have additional players, neutral players, target players, to change the scoring methodology and to change the number of overloads that we have. So these are all some ideas that you can use in the STEP principle, and there's far more within each category that I hope to go into and look into in the future videos. Hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to stick with it. Hopefully it evolves nicely. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye.